Good evening. My name is Christopher Hale, and I am Freedom's Witness. And I've been having fun with editing and re editing and writing and taking people's comments about my book. So the book is getting closer to being finished, and I want to make sure that I produce a quality work, something that's amazing that not only tells my story in a factual way, truthful way, and with humor, but also sheds light on how I was able to recover and how you too can recover successfully from being in a mind control cult, a religion, not just that, but in any kind of situation that keeps you trapped in prison and keeps you trapped in fear. So, I am, I don't know, 9 chapters in. I think that's about it. But I wanted to read you a little bit about chapter 5, and I think I want to call it Baptism as the Final Frontier. Now, to set the context of this, I talk a little bit about how my family became Jehovah's Witnesses, how I got involved, how I ended up getting disfellowshipped 3 times, and how I ended up staying out. And there's a lot of components to the story. Some of it's pretty funny. And I think for all of you ex-Jehovah Witnesses out there and some of you sneaky JWs who are watching this stuff and you know you shouldn't be, you should recognize this. So on to chapter 5. I'm going to do a brief reading here. I hope you enjoy. Here we go. Baptism is the final frontier. If ever there were a last chance to bolt for the door with zero consequences, this would be the time. Do you have doubts? Run! Do you feel like you might be getting handcuffed and shackled to something that may hold you down for the rest of your life? Exit stage left, right, or up, whichever is fastest. Have a curious mind and think you might want to pursue a career doing something you love? Yell fire and then disappear. For those who become Jehovah's Witnesses as a result of someone knocking on their door, they have the added disadvantage, or so it seems at the time, of having friends and relationships that are out of alignment with the teachings of their new religion, and so therefore have much more to lose than those like myself, who were raised in the sect with no exposure to anything else. The baptism ceremony itself is a fairly low-key event. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in celebrating personal success or achievements, so the event itself is quite simple. The ceremony typically begins with those that are being baptized are led to the front of the auditorium. Typically, the front row will be reserved just for them. The speaker will then ask them all a series of questions that must be answered in the affirmative, typically witnessed by thousands in attendance. Once they have all answered these questions in the affirmative, a prayer is given and the students are led to the pool where they are baptized by being completely dipped under the water. Now, just the author's side note, this is still in the editing phase, so there may be some word choices that are not the best. The grammar may be slightly off, but just try to follow with me if you can. And I'll try not to get tongue twisted over my own words. Continuing on, the baptism itself is generally performed by certain elders or ministerial servants who have been approved somehow by the local body of elders to perform this dipping process. I happened to be part of that baptismal team one year during my young years and have had the privilege of working backstage during the actual baptism ceremony. My favorite part was when the women came out in their bathing suits. I had the awesome opportunity to see what they were working with, even though they had strict rules on the type of bathing suit the females could wear. It was still pretty cool getting a legal eyeful, all the while caring for my spiritual duties during the event. Once you come up out of the water, you are in. Welcome to the club. You are now entitled to take the Walk of Fame. Most of the onlookers are now eating their lunches and socializing with all their friends. So you hurriedly get dressed so that you can make your way through the crowds, much the same as you do in a crowded nightclub. You slap hands with your study conductor and your other new friends. Others that do not know you will congratulate you and call you brother or sister. You feel elated. Others will invite you to eat with them, maybe even share some of their food. Yet others will invite you to their homes for a meal and some good times. As in the movie The Matrix, you have swallowed the blue pill. You are now celebrated by your new friends because you have successfully shed all the trappings of the world and have come into an approved standing with God in His Spirit-directed organization, so you are told over and over and over again. Excuse me. At this time, you never think about leaving. The idea of being disfellowshipped for some minor offense never crosses your mind. The organization is perfect, it seems. You are not questioning the many changes in prophecy and doctrine over the many years of their existence. You are not asking yourself if existence of the governing body is actually scriptural. You are not questioning at this point why Jehovah's Witnesses have a higher than normal suicide and depression rate among their young members. You may not even be aware that this organization owns more than $1 billion of the most desirable real estate in New York. You have not considered for one moment just how judgmental you have become. You have not noticed how little tolerance you have for others' viewpoints, even those of whom you love the most. Have you noticed that the only literary works you read are produced by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society? Did you know that they are primarily a publishing company? You probably don't know that while they urge their members to pursue ministerial efforts over higher education, many of those that manage the organization hold degrees in law, medicine, and engineering. You strongly embrace the truth that taking a blood transfusion is evil and that you will be harshly disciplined by God if you disobey this. But you have not been faced yet with the prospect of your son, daughter, mother, father, or wife dying because of your beliefs about the sanctity of blood. You are not considering how you will manage if your son, daughter, wife, husband, mother, father, or best friend is disfellowshipped and you can have no more association with them until or unless they return. You are now living in their spiritual paradise now. Critical thinking skills are no longer required. Reading books and exercising your reasoning skills are no longer necessary. No need to form any more opinions based on intelligent thought or to even ponder the future. Your future and thinking have been given to you by the governing body. This organization seems perfect. That is, until you want to leave. And as in the movie The Matrix, you swallow the red pill. The red pill represents reality. Just like anything new, the novelty soon wears off when you realize your newfound friends are just as prone to having cliques as any other group, society, or family. They are just as imperfect, if not more so, than all the church-going people you condemn and judge so harshly. Many lie, steal, and cheat, just like so many of these horrible worldly people for whom you hold such disdain. To support this, let me tell you a story about two elders in my home congregation in Columbus, Ohio, who were wholehearted swindlers and preachers at the same time. Since I cannot be sure whose hands these writings will fall into, I need to change their names. Let's call them Mick and Mac. Mick and Mac both had very nice families and were very well respected in my home congregation. Mick and Mac were average guys without college educations, but were somehow doing very well financially in the real estate market. By the eyes of those in the congregation, Mick and Mac were being highly favored because they were being blessed with financial success and they were being used by God to be a support and pillar to our congregation. We were so happy to have them. Both had beautiful wives with long, wispy hair and curvy shapes that entertained our imaginations during the weekly meetings. The children were equally as beautiful, courteous, and well behaved. Mick and Mac had heavyweight investors that believed in their financial acumen. At least that was the story many of us got. So, imagine my surprise when my wife and I were watching the news one night and the headline story was about a local man caught in a real estate flipping scheme. I didn't really pay attention till I saw Mick being arrested on live television. Mac would later be arrested the same day, with both mugshots plastered across the television for all to see. Could this really be the outstanding elders from our congregation? Yes, and it gets worse. Later we would discover that Mick and Mac had financed many homes in the Ohio area for other witnesses with poor credit, cashed out second mortgages, pocketed the money, and leaving many of their brothers and sisters in foreclosure and with nowhere to live. To my deep satisfaction, Mick would do every minute of 6 years in federal prison. Mac, who was a childhood friend of mine, has been saddled the rest of his life with a criminal record. Mick and Mac would both be disfellowshipped, deservedly so. And how does this story end? Mick ended up with Mac's wife. You wouldn't hear a story like this when the witnesses come knocking at your door. During your induction process, you are led to believe that this organization is divinely protected and that God has direct oversight over those who are assigned to teach and govern. You begin to realize that there could be no wolves in sheep's clothing in this organization. The constant dribble from the stage about how God keeps his congregation clean convinces you of this. So you are incredibly surprised when you hear of sporadic incidents of child abuse and pedophilia in other congregations. You may dismiss this as a result of Jehovah removing his spirit from the congregation, But then you hear of a large lawsuit that was awarded to a certain young woman for the abuse she suffered at the hands of someone in a responsible position in her congregation. Will you dismiss this information? Curious, you go to the forbidden internet and do a little research on child molestation and sexual abuse and find a myriad of articles and videos detailing one story after another, and the end results are typically all the same. The organization will tell you that these stories are lies developed by the apostates to divert you from your faith in your work. Jehovah protects his loyal servants. How many times have you heard that from the stage with supporting scripture and numerous works published in the Watch, Shine, Awake magazines? Do you remember 9/11? I do. I remember exactly where I was when the towers came down, killing all those people. Approximately 14 witnesses are known to have died in that tragic act of horror. Where was their salvation? According to the organization, Jehovah protects his servants. Had they displeased their Heavenly Father in some way? Does this official number include any who were disfellowshipped, or does this particular statistic, not include them until or if they are ever reinstated? Herein lies a very fundamental reason why so many are attracted to this religion. To observers, this group looks well protected and peaceful, as if there is some invisible wall around them. It's a mirage. Let me illustrate it this way. If you are in a relationship with an abuser that is constantly telling you that the reason they hit you so often is your fault, that you are bringing it on yourself, what happens? You begin to believe it, and you will try to convince anyone who questions you why you stay. Same with this group. You are continually told how there is no other peace like there is in this organization, that happiness abounds and that you serve the happy God. Therefore, you should be living joyful lives with joyful people, joyful things, and joyful stuff all over the place. You soon begin to realize that if you want to have friends and a social life, you had better exhibit your joy. So everyone is exhibiting joy, whether they have it or not. So goes the mirage, and so grows the organization. So do not ignore your curiosity here. Let curiosity run its course. Dig a little deeper. Many witnesses that choose to leave or who are forced out post lots of videos on YouTube. Notice how much pain these people are in? Where does that come from? If this organization is truly blessed as the only channel for salvation, why are these people so angry and hurt? The opposite should in fact be true. They should be admonishing everyone and anyone to stay because there is no other way to salvation. However, quite the opposite is true. The organization does not stand behind people with critical thinking skills. We all have them to one extent or another. Do these stories have a ring of truth behind them? Think and consider. If your beliefs are strong and based on firm ground and on sound reasoning backed by facts, then you will be able to objectively listen, analyze, and come to your own conclusions. So, you have swallowed the red pill. You see reality. You are not amused. You want out. Now what? So, that's it for that chapter, and I'm not reading any more of this because I want you people to buy the book and experience this for yourself. So, again, my name is Chris Hale, and I am Freedom's Witness, and you all have a great rest of the week.